You realize that we have this propensity of looking at events in life more than we do look at processes. And I want us to discuss in this episode today, even as we continue in this new series, we want to talk about processes and events as far as purpose fulfillment is concerned. You know why I'm doing this? I'm doing this because for the most part, the people who do not discover their purpose love events more than they do love processes. And there is a fine line in there because both are useful. It is important to have events in our lives, but it's critically important for us to have processes. So let us stay tuned to this one.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Obviously, there is a bias between events and processes. If I asked you to remember processes, seldom will you remember a process. But you're most inclined to remember the events, the transitions that you went through, the bad events, the good events, the crises, the highlights, the elevated moments of your life, the transition from youth to adulthood, into marriage, into weddings, and you remember events more than you do remember processes. But if you look at life from that angle, you will see that processes always will create events. Seldom is it the other way around, that an event creates a process. That event that has created a process, so to speak, was also created by a process. What are we communicating? We're saying that processes are critical. Events are also critical. But if you are looking at fulfilling your life purpose, the question is this: will you fulfill it in an event, or will you fulfill it in a process? That is the most critical question to answer today. The answer to that question determines your deployment of your purpose or not. Purpose, for the most part, is going to be steeped into a process. Of course, things will happen that will highlight your purpose. When you deliver that graduation speech, commencement speech, for example, when you acquire a company, for example, when you earn your first $1 million, for example, when you buy your own organization and you buy your own home, all these things are events. But to the lead up to these events, there have always been processes. Your purpose is, for the most part, going to be steeped into a process. We saw the example of Jesus Christ yesterday hanging on a cross. That was a major event. By the way, you remove that event from Christianity, Jesus Christ on the cross, His death and His resurrection, those are events. You remove those from His life, guess what happens? The whole thing crumbles. You remove those events, the key pillar events from His life, the whole religion of Christianity, it crumbles into pieces. Therefore, I'm saying this, that pillars in our lives sometimes can be events. In fulfilling our purpose, sometimes the events can be massive pillars. However, you cannot disengage yourself from a process. The reason as to why I'm doing this episode is because People look for purpose in terms of events, not knowing that purpose is found in the process. And why don't people look for processes? Let me tell you why. Because processes are arduous. They are boring. They are tedious. They call for our best foot forward and our best ounce of energy in terms of determination. They call us for persistence. They call for us to break our sweat. They call for us to endure the hardship, to endure the setback, to soldier on. They are not fun to be with. Processes are not things that you celebrate and so on. They sometimes do not offer a promise. You go through a process and you don't see a promise of the process at the end of the day. You don't even see and recognize the growth that is going on, that is taking place. You don't see a baby growing up in the womb. But the event that we celebrate is the birth of the baby. And probably we also celebrate the event of the conception of the baby. But in between the process, the throwing up, the morning sickness, the having to go to the antenatal care and having to be tired at some point in time and always wanting to crave for some things and you don't want others, and the heat that you carry. I can't describe the pregnancy, but you know what I'm talking about. It is a process. The pregnancy is a process, and nobody really wants that. It's prestigious, it's fun, it's fulfilling to be pregnant, but I just said it's fun. I don't know. It is something that people look forward to. However, where the rubber meets the road, the process is never as fun as the event. Raising up a boy, raising up a girl in this day and in this age, sometimes it's fun, but it is a process, and in this process there are going to be very many boring things. But when your boy graduates, or when your boy is issuing a commencement speech, or when your boy is acquiring a new asset, or when your boy is becoming the president of the country, what happens? It's an event. This event has been buttressed all along by a process. So I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, even as we are continuing in this episode, and even as we beginning to come to a close of this episode, what am I asking? As you can see, I am asking, don't ignore the process you are in, and don't give up on the process you are in, especially if you know you are in a process. What is a process? Is something repeatable, something predictable, something with some bit of boring certainty. That's what you're doing. You are into public speaking. What is the process? It's practice. And you're getting feedback. Maybe you're going to Toastmasters and they give you feedback and your speech was pathetic. That is the process. Don't you ever give up on processes and, in other words, start looking for events. Don't be the guy who is a hunter of events in your life. Be the guy who sticks and stakes their claim on a process that is going to deliver the event at the end of the day. That's what we're discussing in this short series. Processes versus events. Both are critical. Events are good. Events actually denote that there has been a process that you went through. When you're graduating, guess what? You went through a process. The problem we have is that people hate processes, and people actually, let me tell you how people crucify processes. When people graduate, what do? They burn their books. They burn their scrapbooks. Why? Because they think that that process of schooling denoted prison, denoted lack of freedom, lack of fun, and so on. And yet, without the scrapbooks, you wouldn't be graduating. Without those notebooks, you wouldn't be graduating. And the problem is that once you graduate as an event, guess what? You do away with the process, not knowing that it's the process that actually led you to where you are. And therefore, I'm saying, yes, events are good, but immediately there is an event, I am asking you to look back and reflect on the process that brought you there, but at the same time to institute another process, yet another process that is going to lead you to another event. So the question we're answering in this episode is this: is purpose fulfillment a process, or is it an event? I will tell you, it is more of a process than it is an event. Because if I remove the process, there will be no event. It seems to me like the event will organize itself as long as the processes are there. It seems to me like if I do all that I need to do, the event, the graduation, the acquisition, the marriage, whatever it is, it seems to me like the event will take care of itself if the process has been buttressed well enough. So, what are we looking for in life? For the most part, actually, human nature is to look for events. But when you do that, you will seldom come to the fulfillment of your God-given purpose. So I'm asking you to do this one thing. Instead of looking for events, why don't you invest yourself in a process? Purpose discovery is a process. Purpose deployment is a process. Purpose fulfillment is a process. In between those deployments, discovering and so on, in between there will be major events, there will be minor events. But look not for the events. If you can take care of the processes, the events will most likely take care of themselves. Tomorrow we continue with these thoughts in this series where we're talking about events and processes. But until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.